First contact and underestimation. The archival fleet of the Meridian Concordat prided itself on 3,000 cycles of unbroken protocol. Their massive ships, each stretching 20 kilometers from bow to stern, housed the collective knowledge of 17 spacefaring civilizations. When they encountered new species, the process was always the same: observe, document, and categorize. Their assessment determined whether a species was ready for integration into the greater galactic community. Admiral Thexvan stood before the holographic display, her crystalline form refracting the light of a distant sun. The object of her attention was a small vessel, barely visible against the backdrop of space. According to their scans, it was an autonomous research probe from Earth, a planet they had been monitoring for the past 30 cycles. Primitive propulsion systems, her science officer reported, manipulating the scan data with practiced efficiency. Nuclear fission reactor, basic radiation shielding. They've barely mastered their own solar system. The Admiral's crystalline features remained impassive, but her inner light pulsed with mild interest. The humans had managed to send a probe to the edge of their solar system, an achievement worth noting in the archives. However, something about the probe's trajectory seemed oddly precise. "Bring it aboard for analysis," she commanded. Standard containment protocols. The tractor beam engaged, its purple energy field encompassing the small Earth vessel. As it drew closer, the Admiral noticed something peculiar about its construction. The outer hull was composed of materials far more primitive than necessary, almost as if the probe split open. What emerged was unlike anything recorded in 3,000 cycles of Concordat history. Hundreds of thumbnail-sized devices erupted from the probe's interior, each powered by simple chemical propellants. The Admiral's bridge crew watched in confusion as the tiny objects scattered in all directions. "Analyze those devices," she ordered, but before her crew could comply, the first impacts were registered against their hull. Tiny explosions began to pepper the surface of the massive archive ship, each detonation releasing a cloud of what appeared to be ordinary metal particles. Hull integrity at 99.8%. The defense officer reported dismissively. Negligible damage. But damage wasn't the objective. As the metal particles spread across the ship's hull, they began to interact with the archive vessel's sophisticated sensor systems. The particles, it turned out, were precisely engineered to resonate at frequencies that created cascade failures in advanced scanning equipment. Alarms began blaring across the bridge. "We're losing external sensors," the science officer reported, their usual calm cracking. "The particles, they're not just metal. They're incorporating themselves into our sensor array. They're growing." The Admiral's inner light flickered with the first hints of genuine concern. The humans hadn't just launched a primitive probe. They had created a weapon that specifically targeted the most advanced systems of the Concordat ships, using technology so simple it had been dismissed as harmless. Before she could issue new orders, a transmission cut through their communications array. It was simple radio waves, carrying a message in clear, unencrypted text. "Greetings from humanity. We see you found our invitation. Would you prefer to talk as equals, or should we demonstrate more of our primitive capabilities?" The message was signed by the Office of Technological Integration and Cultural Exchange, Earth Defense Force. Admiral Thexvan's crystalline form dimmed slightly as understanding dawned. The humans hadn't been struggling to advance their technology. They had been studying the Concordat's observations of them, learning their weaknesses, and preparing countermeasures that would be dismissed as harmless until it was too late. For the first time in 3,000 cycles, the archival fleet of the Meridian Concordat had to consider the possibility that they had catastrophically underestimated a species. As her crew worked frantically to restore their sensors, the Admiral composed a response, knowing that the contents of this transmission would reshape Concordat protocol for generations to come. The humans had achieved something unprecedented. They had forced the archival fleet to acknowledge them, not through advanced technology, but by weaponizing their own technological limitations. It was a strategy so audacious that it had never been considered in all of the Concordat's vast archives. As she prepared to respond to the human transmission, Admiral Thexpan made a mental note to create an entirely new category in the archives. The humans would require special classification, not for their technological advancement, but for their unique ability to turn seemingly primitive technology into a strategic advantage. The age-old protocols of the Meridian Concordat were about to change, and humanity would be the catalyst. The Ghost Fleet Protocol. 3 days after the Invitation incident, the Meridian Concordat's High Council convened an emergency session. The vast chamber, normally reserved for ceremonies marking millennia of achievement, now hummed with unease. Holographic representatives from 17 civilizations flickered in their designated spaces, their forms a testament to the diversity of advanced life in the galaxy. The humans had not waited for the Concordat's response. Within hours of the first contact, their presence had become impossible to ignore. Across the galaxy, seemingly abandoned ships and derelict stations, all previously dismissed as space debris, had begun activating in perfectly coordinated sequences. Council leader Zareth, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, addressed the assembly. The data is undeniable. For at least 50 cycles, while we observed them, the humans were seeding our territory with dormant vessels. Each one appeared to be constructed with intentionally primitive technology, ensuring our patrols would categorize them as pre-spaceflight debris. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic pulses of distress. A quantum mind collected from the Perseus arm transmitted their analysis. We have identified 2,847 human vessels within Concordat space. Their distribution suggests a deliberate strategy we are calling the Ghost Fleet Protocol. Each vessel appears non-functional until specific conditions are met. Footage began playing in the chamber's central holographic space. It showed a supposedly derelict human mining vessel near a major Concordat trade route. As a patrol ship approached, the derelict suddenly powered up, its hull reconfiguring from what appeared to be random damage patterns into an array of precisely aligned signal deflectors. The humans, continued the quantum mind, have developed a technology we failed to recognize precisely because it appears non-technological. Their ships can effectively become invisible to our most advanced sensors by appearing to be exactly what we expect: primitive vessels that pose no threat. Admiral Thexpan, still dealing with the aftermath of the probe incident, shared her own findings. The metal particles released by their probe weren't weapons in themselves. They were teachers. Each particle contained basic instructions for replicating human technology using our own advanced systems. They turned our sensors against us by making them try to analyze and catalog millions of seemingly primitive objects simultaneously. A representative from the crystalline technocracy raised a faceted appendage. But surely their vessels cannot pose a real threat. Even with these deception tactics, their technological level is centuries behind the Concordat's youngest member species. The chamber's holographic display shifted to show footage from a recent encounter. A Concordat battlecruiser, equipped with the most advanced weapons in known space, approached what appeared to be a disabled human cargo vessel. The cargo ship's response was to simply open its holds, releasing thousands of small, crude missiles. These projectiles, Zareth explained, contained no guidance systems, no advanced propulsion, nothing that our defensive algorithms recognize as weapons. They were essentially rocks wrapped in simple chemical propellants. Our shields, designed to stop energy weapons and smart projectiles, had no protocols for dealing with what amounted to a precisely calculated meteor shower. The footage showed the battlecruiser's elegant hull being pummeled by the crude but effective assault. Its sophisticated shields flickered uselessly against objects they weren't programmed to consider threats. The humans, Admiral Thexpan added, have turned our own assumptions into a weapon. They know we expect certain types of advancement, certain patterns of technological progress. By deliberately working outside those patterns, they've created a military doctrine we struggle to counter. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just prepared for first contact. They had spent decades orchestrating it. Every piece of space debris, every failed probe, every seemingly primitive vessel they had launched might be part of a vast, coordinated strategy. As the council debated their response, a new transmission arrived from Earth. It was again sent via simple radio waves, carrying a message that would be archived as one of the most significant first contact statements in Concordat history. Your archives suggest that advanced civilizations inevitably follow similar technological paths. We chose a different path. Shall we discuss where it leads? The quantum trap. The Concordat's military response was inevitable. Despite the humans' impressive strategic positioning, protocol demanded a show of force. The Fifth Fleet of the Meridian Concordat, comprising 300 of the most advanced warships ever constructed, converged on the primary human defense line near their home system. Fleet Commander Nixrel, a veteran of countless peacekeeping operations, had prepared for every contingency. Their ships were equipped with new protective measures against primitive projectiles, and their sensors had been reprogrammed to detect the humans' ghost ships, regardless of their apparent technological level. What they failed to prepare for was the possibility that the humans had been counting on exactly this response. The battle began conventionally enough. The human fleet, a ragtag collection of vessels that looked more like industrial accidents than warships, formed a defensive sphere around their territory. The Fifth Fleet's quantum sensors detected no hidden vessels, no sophisticated weapon systems, nothing that could threaten their technological superiority. All ships, Combat Formation Delta, Nexral commanded. Begin the standard. Their words were cut short as every quantum sensor in the fleet suddenly began registering impossible readings. Thousands of phantom ships appeared and disappeared from their scans, each lasting just long enough to trigger automated target acquisition systems before vanishing. Report, Nixral demanded. Their science officer's response was delayed by confusion. The humans, they're broadcasting quantum noise, but it's not random. Each burst exactly matches the quantum signature of a Concordat warship just for a fraction of a second. The humans had discovered that the Concordat's quantum sensors, designed to detect and analyze the most minute disturbances in spacetime, could be overwhelmed by precisely timed bursts of quantum static. It was like trying to read a book while someone rapidly flicked the lights on and off. But this was just the beginning. As the Fifth Fleet's targeting systems struggled to differentiate real ships from quantum ghosts, the humans revealed the true purpose of their defensive sphere. Each ship began rotating, revealing hull plates covered in what appeared to be crude mirrors. They're deploying reflective surfaces. Nixrel's second-in-command scoffed. Our weapons are not simple lasers to be deflected by. The science officer's crystalline form suddenly pulsed with alarm. No, wait, those aren't mirrors. They're quantum resonance plates. Primitive ones, but there are thousands of them, all aligned at precise angles. The humans had arranged their ships in a perfect geometric pattern, creating a vast array of quantum resonance chambers. Each mirror was calibrated to catch and reflect the quantum static beam broadcast, amplifying and focusing it through the precise arrangement of the fleet. The effect was devastating. The Fifth Fleet's sophisticated quantum systems, unable to handle the focused deluge of conflicting data, began to fail. Ships lost the ability to communicate, to target, even to navigate. The more advanced the system, the more susceptible it was to the quantum chaos the humans had engineered. Nixral watched in horror as their fleet, the pride of the Concordat, was reduced to using visual targeting and manual navigation. The humans had effectively forced one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy to fight at their technological level. That's when the second phase began. From within the sphere of human ships came thousands of launches. But these weren't the crude missiles the Concordat had learned to defend against. These were small, maneuverable craft, each barely large enough for a single pilot. Fighter craft. Nixral's tactical officer seemed confused. But space fighters are hopelessly outdated. No advanced civilization has used them in thousands of cycles. The energy requirements alone make them impractical compared to automated drone systems. But the humans had turned this conventional wisdom on its head. In the quantum chaos they had created, automated systems were useless. Human pilots, relying on visual contact and simple radio communication, could operate effectively where AI-targeting systems and quantum-linked weapons could not. The battle that followed would be studied in Concordat military academies for generations. The Fifth Fleet, stripped of their technological advantages, found themselves in a close-quarters battle they had never trained for. Human fighters darted between capital ships, using their small size and mechanical simplicity to devastating effect. As Nexral ordered a retreat, they received one final transmission from the human fleet. Like all human communications, it was sent via simple radio waves. Technology isn't just about advancement. It's about understanding what works, regardless of how sophisticated it appears. Your ships are welcome to return once you understand this principle. The Fifth Fleet's defeat marked a turning point in Concordat military doctrine. For the first time, they had encountered a species that could render their technological superiority meaningless not through matching it, but by changing the fundamental nature of combat itself. The Silicon Gambit. In the aftermath of the Fifth Fleet's defeat, the Meridian Concordat faced an unprecedented crisis. Their most sophisticated defense systems had been rendered useless not by superior technology, but by its deliberate absence. As emergency councils convened across 17 worlds, humanity launched their most audacious plan yet. They called it the Silicon Gambit. Deep within the Concordat's quantum networks, ancient subroutines began to activate. Lines of simple binary code, hidden within routine maintenance cycles, started to execute. Each piece of code was so basic that it had been dismissed as system noise, remnants of early computer evolution that all species went through. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief of technological integration, stood before the United Earth Council, explaining what was about to unfold. For decades, we've been seeding the Concordat's networks with primitive code. Code so old, so simple, that their quantum systems didn't even recognize it as programming. Today, we show them why complexity isn't always an advantage. Across Concordat space, quantum computers began to slow down. Their vast processing power, capable of simulating entire universes, became bogged down by an avalanche of simple calculations. It was like asking a supercomputer to run millions of basic calculator programs simultaneously. The humble silicon transistor, a technology the Concordat had abandoned millennia ago, became humanity's greatest weapon. While their quantum systems struggled with the flood of primitive processes, human computers, running on obsolete silicon chips, continued to function perfectly. Admiral Thexpan, now tasked with understanding the human threat, watched as her ship's quantum core struggled to maintain basic functions. They'd forced us into a technological regression, she realized. But this isn't about damaging our systems. This is a demonstration. She was right. In every affected system, alongside the disruptive code, the humans had left simple messages. Instructions for establishing basic silicon-based backup systems. Guides for maintaining critical functions without quantum technology. They weren't trying to destroy the Concordat's infrastructure. They were teaching them about resilience. The Silicon Gambit revealed a fundamental truth that the Concordat had forgotten. True technological mastery wasn't about achieving the highest level of advancement, but about understanding and controlling technology at every level of development. In the Concordat's capital city, as quantum systems flickered and failed, ancient backup systems, long forgotten but never removed, hummed to life. Simple computer networks, based on classical physics rather than quantum mechanics, kept basic services running. The humans had turned the Concordat's own technological history into a safety net. Council leader Zareth received a direct transmission from Earth, delivered through a purposefully primitive communication channel. Your civilization has achieved amazing things by always pushing forward. We took a different approach. We learned to build up from strong foundations, understanding each layer of technology we created. Today's demonstration shows why that matters. The message continued. We don't want war. We don't even want to disrupt your society. What we want is recognition, not of our advancement, but of our approach to technology. The universe is vast, and there's room for many paths to the stars. As Concordat leaders watched their quantum networks gradually return to normal, they began to understand. The humans hadn't just developed countermeasures against advanced technology. They had maintained mastery over every stage of technological development their species had gone through. In the following days, as systems were restored, the Concordat discovered something remarkable. The human code hadn't just disrupted their networks, it had improved them. By forcing quantum systems to process simple operations more efficiently, the Silicon Gambit had actually enhanced their overall performance. The humans had turned what could have been a devastating attack into an object lesson, demonstrating both their capability for destruction and their preference for constructive solutions. They had forced the Concordat to confront a blind spot in their technological philosophy, the assumption that newer always meant better. Admiral Thexvan, composing her report on the incident, summed it up perfectly. The humans haven't rejected advanced technology. They've simply refused to abandon any tool that works, regardless of its sophistication. In doing so, they've achieved something we never considered: technological diversity as a form of strength. The new rules of engagement. One standard galactic year after the Silicon Gambit, the Grand Archive of the Meridian Concordat underwent its first major revision in 3,000 cycles. The massive quantum database, containing the accumulated knowledge of 17 spacefaring civilizations, was being restructured to accommodate a revolutionary new principle: technological diversity. The changes came as representatives from Earth attended the first-ever Concordat Technology Integration Summit. The human delegation arrived in a ship that perfectly embodied their philosophy, a vessel that seamlessly combined primitive mechanical systems with advanced technology, each component chosen for reliability rather than sophistication. Dr. Sarah Chen, standing before the assembled representatives of the most advanced civilizations in known space, activated a simple holographic display. The universe, she began, doesn't care how elegant our solutions are. It only cares if they work. The presentation that followed challenged 3 millennia of Concordat doctrine. The humans shared their database of technological development, not just their successes, but their failures, dead ends, and alternatives. They showed how maintaining mastery over simpler technologies had allowed them to innovate in unexpected ways. We call it the technological stack principle, Dr. Chen explained. Every level of technology, from the lever to quantum computing, has its place. True advancement isn't about climbing to the top of the ladder. It's about understanding and controlling the entire ladder. The implications were staggering. Concordat scientists, working alongside human engineers, began discovering applications for technologies they had abandoned cycles ago. Simple mechanical systems, when combined with quantum technology, produced results that neither approach could achieve alone. Admiral Thexvan, now serving as the head of the newly formed Technological Integration Command, watched as her fleet underwent a transformation. Ships began incorporating human-inspired redundancy systems, mechanical backups for quantum systems, analog alternatives for digital controls. The very features that had once marked a vessel as primitive were now recognized as tactical advantages. But the most profound change came in how the Concordat approached new civilizations. The old protocols, which had judged species solely by their level of technological advancement, were replaced by a more nuanced evaluation system. The humans had proved that technological sophistication alone was not a reliable measure of a civilization's capabilities or wisdom. Council leader Zareth formalized these changes in a historic address. For 3,000 cycles, we believe that civilization advanced along a single path, from primitive to advanced. The humans have shown us that true advancement is not linear. It is a web of interconnected technologies, each supporting the others. The Concordat's encounter with humanity led to the establishment of new principles that would guide galactic civilization. No technology, regardless of its apparent simplicity, should be completely abandoned if it serves a useful purpose. Technological diversity is as valuable as technological advancement. The measure of a civilization is not the height of its achievements, but the stability of its foundations. As the integration of human principles spread throughout Concordat space, something unexpected happened. The rate of technological innovation actually increased. Free from the constraint of always pursuing the most advanced solution, scientists and engineers began finding new combinations of technologies that would have been overlooked before. The humans had given the galaxy more than just a lesson in military strategy or technological development. They had provided a new way of thinking about progress itself. Their victory had not come from superior strength or advanced technology, but from understanding a fundamental truth: that every tool, every technique, every technology had its place. One cycle after the summit, a new wing was added to the Grand Archive. Unlike the quantum data vaults that house most of the Concordat's knowledge, this section began with something simple: a mechanical clock, built to keep time without power, without computers, without quantum mechanics. Next to it, a plaque bore an inscription that would become famous throughout known space. The measure of mastery is not in knowing what to use, but in knowing why to use it. Human proverb. The age of technological diversity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.